Welcome everybody to our latest webinar with Coach Vass and friends. We're talking about the offensive side of the ball tonight. This should be fun. We have a really, really good panel tonight. I'm really excited. These guys. I'm going to let them introduce themselves. I'll go first here. I'm Brendan Hall. I'm a content producer here at Hudl, working on all things football marketing. Football is my life and blood, just like these gentlemen. So I'm really excited to be hosting this tonight. I'll let you guys go. Vass, why don't you introduce yourself?
My name is Chris Vassar. I am the host of the Make Defense Great Again podcast, and I am Stephen Lowe's personal water boy.
I'm Keith Fagan. I'm an NZone master coach. I was an offensive coordinator and a position coach in New York for 17 years. And right now I'm actually currently taking the season off, even though we're supposed to be playing in March, and trying to get my state teaching certification.
My name is Alex Kirby. I work at Ben Davis High School in Indianapolis, Indiana. I am what you call a lay coach. I do not teach any classes. So I actually work in insurance as my full-time job during the day. So I basically don't have the time to be at practice and everything as much as I would like. So basically I am more of an off the field analyst / scout role Monday through Thursday, and then Friday through Sunday I'm much more heavily involved when I'm not working. So that's my role.
And I'm Stephen Lowe. I'm the offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach at St. John Bosco High School in Southern California here. Third year being at this program, but been coaching for about 20 years, and look forward to stealing some more stuff from these guys. So looking forward to it.
Nice. My name's Nate Patterson. I'm a product manager here at Hudl. I've been working on the new football analysis beta here for about a year at this point. So real excited to show that off and have these guys kind of talk through it and talk more about the offensive side of the ball.
Thanks, everybody. Well, we are going to start this off. The man with the plan, the guy pulling the strings behind the curtain here, Nate, is going to give us some updates on what we've been up to lately with the analysis beta. We're really excited about the developments we've made the last few months in particular. I'm going to let Nate show us what's we're up to.
Sure. All right. Yeah, so just to give a little bit of background, about a year ago we started working on something new for all football coaches that we wanted to provide as kind of the next generation of Hudl, the next evolution of what our product might be. And that kind of took itself into what is today the analysis beta. So right up here, the top of the screen on your library, you can actually access it here. We'll load up all of your video and data that you have in Classic. So from here, you can search all of your teams that you have. If you want to look at your team, we're throwing all the game video right in there. Let's say, we want to scout this team, Bishop Newman, though. So we can load up a few games here. There we go. And then what you're going to see is something a lot different than what you're maybe used to. So big video player here, and then visualizations over here on the right. So again, taking all that data that you're entering in the grid, that you're getting back from assists, that you're using custom columns for, and visualizing that here on the right. So that's really, this is really the power of the analysis beta right now. So if we just want to look at our offensive clips over here, now we're filtering to offense and all these update, right? So right, you have your offensive tendencies here at the top, defensive tendencies down below, outcomes, and then the custom cards are down here below, which is something new. So as far as things that are new, maybe since the last time I talked about it, or maybe since you've been in the betas, one is right, a big piece of feedback from coaches was, we want to be able to look at multiple plays or multiple formations at a time. So maybe wanting to look at, all the wing formations. So I'm actually going to look at, pro wing, gun wing, and double wing all at the same time. And so that's a little bit more flexibility there. And then again, all these updates. So right now we're looking at all the offensive plays when they were in pro wing, gun wing, and double wing and looking at their run pass ratio based off of first down, distance, field zone, all of that fun stuff. Right, if we clear a couple of these out over here, another big change, like I mentioned, that coach had been talking to us about since probably May at this point, is being able to use custom data here, right? So this is just, the team that we're scouting here runs triple option or some sort of variation of that. So right here, we have a give keep column here, and what we can do is actually move this to wherever we want it to be. So give keep, that's kind of an outcome, play outcome. So I might want to move that to the play outcomes. And then in the same thing is I can see that broken down again by down, distance, field zone, everything else that I can normally do here. So, right, the point of kind of a lot of this is instead of having to make those, constantly run reports, okay, flip back over to the video, okay, flip back over to the report, all right, rerun the report. It's all live and updating all at the same time. Another kind of big point of emphasis here too is kind of the flexible layout of all this. So, maybe I want to just go really in depth with the data here. I can kind of full screen that and get that really broad picture, or, maybe I'm wanting to just watch the video and I can full screen it that way as well. Kind of get back to where I want to be, that docked over on the right here. So that's kind of high level overview of what we built and what we're going to continue to work on, into the winter, into the spring, into the summer, all through 2021. This is really kind of where we want to move workflows and to get coaches more acquainted with using this in the future. Think back over to Vass or Brennan.
Yeah. Well, so I just want to say thank you. We had talked a bunch about this, and the custom column stuff was a game changer. When I make on the Patreon, when I make cut-ups, I made I did a Georgia defensive study. I made like 400 or 500 cut-ups, and I was able to make them so much faster using the new tool. So I appreciate you guys took the feedback to heart. So many times you sit down with a company and you're like, hey, what can we do better? And you give them the feedback and they're like, okay, cool. And then it comes out and they've done nothing that you've said. And I think you guys did a really phenomenal job of really listening to coaches, and I know it's phenomenal. So if you guys aren't using it, I understand if you're in the middle of the season and you're like, listen, I don't want to mess with my flow right now. I don't want to learn, take the time to learn it. We got 2 weeks left or whatever. I get it. But as soon as those 2 weeks are over, whatever, hopefully longer for you guys, use that tool. So thank
Feelings
you.
mutual, by the way.
Yeah, Vass, if I could just comment, I think one of the best things about Hudl is how reactive they are to coaches. They're not satisfied with the product. They're not happy with the product. They're always working to improve the product, number one. And for me, what the beta is, it's those playlists you used to make in your library combined with the printouts you got with the custom reports. So it's both of those things together. So if you're a coach out there and you created a whole series of playlists and you also had the printout hard copy data of those printouts, this is a video version of that. It's a point and click version of that. So, like Vass said, if you're in the middle of the season, I don't think it's something you're going to really be able to give the time it deserves, but it's definitely great for an off-season project.
One of the cool things is you don't have to click back and forth. So like I did, I made my Clemson cut-ups in July. So every month, it's not official, but I make cut-ups for a defense, right? It took me days to go back and forth. It took me days. And with this new feature, because you go to the report, you click the report, the playlist would show up. You have to, save it, then go back. And it would always go back. So it was the last thing that you messed with. but I just feel like this is so much more intuitive. All right, so we're going to kind of take this through how the week goes. If you've watched the roundtable before, it'll kind of rotate by questions, with each coach kind of going first, second, or third and following up, because the nature of this conversation, which if you're not familiar, you didn't email or whatever, we're basically going to go through the week. So question 1 will be about how do you review your previous game? Question 2 will be like, all right, what do you do in the first 12 to 24 hours? Question 3 is how do you game plan using data and film and then moving it through the week? And then question 4 will be about how do you use that data to call film? Because there's going to be a lot of overlap. Coach 1 will give his kind of spiel on it, and then question 2 or coach 2 will kind of fill in the details or where they're different. So I just don't want you to think we're going to be going through the whole like everybody's presentation, full presentation. So we're going to kind of move this. It's going to be very conversational. I personally know these guys. They're all fantastic, and I'm really excited for you guys to see it. So we'll get started. So my first question, we'll start this round. We'll go Keith, Alex, and then Steven. The question is, it's right after the game. What's your game review process? You've shaked all the hands. You've shook all the hands, rather. You've kissed all the babies. You've gotten through that angry parent who's just can't understand why their kid that runs a 5.4 40 and can't jump and can't catch and can't tackle, why he didn't play. You've dodged that person. You've done your Frogger move. You make it back to the office, whether you do it at the office or you go home that night, the next morning. You sit down at your computer to turn on the game, to review it. What is your process? Obviously, this being a Hudl event, we're going to kind of focus on how we're using film and data, not exclusively, but we will be including that. But what is your process? How do you go through that? So Keith, go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, the first thing that we're going to do is obviously get the film loaded and send it off to Hudl Assist. So as soon as that thing comes back, the next morning. So in New York, it's odd how half the times you play on Friday night, half the times you play on Saturday, and with the Jewish holiday, if it falls on a Friday or Saturday, then you're talking about playing either Thursday afternoon or Sunday. So, depending on the calendar, it's essentially most teams are going to be split in their season between Friday night and Saturday. So essentially, it's the day after the game. So whether that's Saturday or Sunday, the first thing we're going to do is take an hour to label our game, formation and play. So most teams in New York do not do platoon. So you're talking one staff. So we'll go through the whole film. So we'll label the offensive plays. Then we're on defense, label the defensive cuts. Usually we do record those during the game. So we would go off a play sheet that was essentially said, but sometimes, kids will make different calls, or, you'll go, the guy wrote it down, it'll be wrong. So we'll do that. Then the second thing we're going to do is we're going to evaluate by position. So then guys will go their own position groups. They'll go down for half an hour and create a mental mistake playlist. We're not going to correct physical mistakes. We're going to correct mental mistakes. So first thing, take an hour, label our game, offense and defense, then take a half an hour to break out into individuals and do your own position group, and take 30 minutes to come up with, 10, 15 clips. You want to try to avoid any redundancies, you know what I'm saying? So if a kid is constantly, down blocking when he should be scooping or whatever it is, you're only going to show him that, clip one time. But we're going to create that playlist to show the kids on Monday. Alex, I think you're up next.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah. Honestly, this is probably going to be my most boring answer out of all of them, just because I don't feel like we do anything that's super special or, that different from anybody else. Here in Indiana, it's very rare that we play a game on a Saturday. I know I talked to some guys on Twitter a few days back, and I know depending on where you're at, you got different situations, but most teams around here, at least near us, have their own field. They don't have to share with anybody. So they can all play their games on Friday night. And for most of us, and I'm speaking for myself and the rest of the staff, we don't really dig deep into it on Friday night. Like Friday night is after the game, we're gonna decompress, we're gonna relax, get our mind off of things a little bit, go socialize with the rest of the staff after the game. And then Saturday morning, we'll come in about 7:30 before the kids come in for JV, get to grading the film, inputting everything. And then, because we play our JV games on Saturday, we also have our kids come in on Saturday morning and lift weights and do all that stuff as well. So they'll go do that first, and then they'll come to us, and we will split into offensive, defensive side. We don't have enough of a facility to go position by position with each coach running his own meeting room, but we split them up offensively and defensively, and we'll just go through the game from start to finish, having already graded the film and put all the data in there. And as far as self-scout stuff, that's not really something we get into until a little bit later on in the week, and I'm happy to talk about that a little bit later as well. But really, at that point, we really just want to get past it. Win or lose, we want to kind of fix as much as we can and then immediately start thinking about the next opponent. Especially when you're talking about dealing with the kids and fixing their mistakes. We want to get looking forward as soon as possible. So by noon on that Saturday, clean slate. We're moving forward and we're looking toward the next opponent.
Mr. Lowe.
Awesome. So pretty similar to what we do, as you guys right there. Typically, we give our guys Saturday and Sunday off, so they're completely gone. We try to keep them fresh, and we come into Monday and we give them work to do on the weekend. So typically, right after the game, after we've tagged everything and intercut and done all that stuff, we make custom columns for each one of our players that's in the game, and we basically give them. We call it our 1/11th grade. So we basically give them. Basically a point for, did they do the correct process to, lead us to a successful play? And then did you actually, complete it? Did you actually do your job? So, usually with that, we're able to kind of gauge, right, were you using the right technique? Were you making the right reads? And then did you actually get the job done? And then we are able to pull that out into like a spreadsheet, and we're able to kind of grade, how each play did, and also what our actual game grade is, along with what each player graded out as. So that's typically what we'll give to our guys, and we'll notate everything on Hudl, and then the kids need to bring back basically all the notes for their position group. So typically we just make a separate playlist for each position group, and after we finish, we just go ahead and we share it out. Chris, I got a special guest for you right here.
What's up?
Hey, what's going on, man?
He knows how to use computer stuff. I don't, man. I'm over here trying to.
That's Chris King, defensive coordinator, John Bosco, and my travel buddy.
What's up, Kinger?
How's it going, man?
You done, Low, or did you have anything else you want to add there?
No, that was the main thing I wanted to add right there.
All right, so I'll jump in and add a couple things here. I know there are some defensive guys in here, so I'll throw just little stuff. One thing that I started doing is I've created a column called Issues. I got this one from Alabama, and so I've started tagging a lot of stuff in Hudl. So instead of writing, I used to write on sheets, and I would do like plus, minus, or grades. So one thing I started doing was I started doing columns for grades, and also it helps you make end of the year cut ups. So you put like number 26 hyphen loaf, and so then at the end of the year, or number 24 great hustle or great effort, and it's almost like. If you've ever written a blog or anything, we have to use like keywords. You want to use the same words. Like if you're going to go with effort, go with effort. So at the end of the year, you can do a search. And so what I started doing was like defense. So anything as a whole related, like loafs, effort, stuff like that. Then I had position, D ends, D tackles. We're 4-2-5. So D ends, D tackles, inside linebackers. I would have a nickel column. Safeties, corners. And then the other thing I did, I started talking about until the ADHD kicked in, was I have an issues column. And so if I did something or if I saw something on offense that gave us problems, or, anything at the end of the year, because I'm also, I'm in that mode. I know this team like the back of my hand. We just got done playing them. This is the best I'm going to know them at any other point in the year, because you've just studied them all week. You just watched how they attacked you, and so all that's fresh in your mind. So we'd put like, 2 back unbalanced, explode shift, 3x1 FIB, whatever is the issue. So an offense, if it was like 4 from a side or move to bear, whatever would be something that was kind of unique, or something that would have given you problems schematically, you put that in that column. And then so when you get to the end of the year, it'd be like, what was the stuff that gave us issues? And then you're trying to go back and figure it all out. It's right there. And it takes you extra 30 seconds. And also, it's kind of funny sometimes to see what you perceive as an issue in the moment. And you get to the end of the year and be like, that's not an issue. I just lost my head for the night or whatever. So anyway, just something to add in there. I actually had a follow-up real quick. Do any of you guys grade in Hudl? Like, do you do your 1s and 0s or minuses or whatever? Do you do it in Hudl?
I do. It's awesome just because we can just pull it up and post it and share it and stuff. Because basically what I do is after I grade everything, I pull it into a file and then I just share it on Google with all the kids to see.
The comments are cool, and I know a lot of coaches, and I do it too. The comments are awesome to put on the film for coaching points, but the problem is they're not searchable. You can't if you write got reached, and then you're like, oh, I want to make a cut up of all the times you got reached on outside. Honestly, I'm talking from the Divas perspective. I need to flip all the examples, but every time we took our set was too short, past pro or whatever. If you type that in, like, Billy, make sure you anchor when you're, setting or whatever, that's great. And they can see the film example, but also if you create a column, you can create cut-ups for them easily. Because then what you're doing, and I do this all the time, where I got a notepad, so my stupid self I'd have like a Excel document, and I'd be writing notes in there, and I'm watching the film and play 50, and then I'm trying to go back to it. And then in February, I'm trying to remember where I put my sheet the night after our game on September 5th. It's like, it's not a winning business model. So I've started to use Hudl more with data repository and with comments as well. Anybody else use Hudl as a grading system?
Again, we don't grade each kid. We're going to look for the mistakes. So that's going to be, a separate playlist that just that coach has. So the receivers coach will have all the mistakes, saved as a playlist in his library. So I guess we can recall that at the end of the year. You can look at that and say, hey, listen, like Coach Kirby would say, you're in a self scout, you check it after 3 weeks. Well, is the wide receiver making the same mistake all the time? Well, right. Guess who needs to fix that? The coach obviously isn't coaching it that well. If the kid's making the same mistake, whatever. Now, if he's finding all new mistakes to make, maybe we got to find a new why. But so it is. We have those mistake playlists that exist. So it's only going to be, what do you have? 60 snaps in a game. It might only be 4 or 5 clips that consistently somebody's making a mistake on.
Yeah.
But
all right. So move on to the next question. This one will start with Alex. This is my favorite question in terms of learning from my side. So the question is, after you finish breaking down the game you just played, what's your process to start evaluating your next opponent? So when I was at Clovis, we always played on Fridays. We played one Thursday game because we shared fields. Sarah, we were much like Keith, where we play Friday, Saturday, Saturday, Friday, 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 Saturday. I mean, it was trying to have a prescribed hour by hour method would make you nuts. And the other thing is with self-scouting, now offense, I don't know if this is so much of a thing from defensively. When I was at Sarah, we'd see split veer, double wing, single wing, 4 wide. So if you just got done playing a double wing team and you asked your 3 technique to fall on his face, fall face down and take a double, and then the next week you're playing a 12 personnel outside zone team and you need them to play in their gaps, grading that is not you kind of take it week by week as well. So whatever your process is, I'd review on Friday night, I'd finish the pod. Then Saturday I would do my thing. We'd meet with the kids. Then I would have a quick meet with the staff, and then I'd go home. So the question is, what are you doing in that? And some guys like to take love the date night on Saturday. They like to get away. Some guys like to grind into the night. So my first question, and really it's, what are you doing between when you sit down at your computer for your first look at that next team to when you start your staff meeting, your game planning meeting, or whatever? I know everybody's different. Where are you starting? What's the first thing you're going to do?
So for me, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm a big believer in watching stuff in chronological order, and I'm talking game by game. So usually we will have most, if not all, the games. Now, technically in our conference, you don't trade all the games, but you guys know how that is. So eventually, we'll get a good portion of the games, and I like to start as early as possible. We will also, as much as possible, try to get every online stream or TV copy of a game if we don't have the coach's copy. And sometimes even if we do, I'm a big believer in that as well, grabbing the TV copy, because you're going to see a lot of stuff on there that you wouldn't otherwise. But the first thing that I'm going to do is basically start with the earliest game and go straight to data entry. As I said at the beginning of this, that's a big part of what I do, but that's a big part of what a lot of our staff does, is data entry in whatever field that they've got broken down and whatever field they're responsible for. But I want to start and go in chronological order, because that's how people are making decisions in real time. You're not making, I feel like I can better understand somebody if I understand where they came from. Like, hey, this guy was playing corner 2 weeks ago, and now they moved him back to safety. Why is that? Now, did somebody get hurt? Is he not quite as fast as they would like him to be? Like, you can kind of go and see kind of the nuances of how the opposing coach is thinking. So that's why I'm a big believer in that. So data entry, and I also don't want to do all the data entry at once, if that makes sense. So what I mean by that is I want to make sure that I'm going to use a defensive side of the ball analogy here. Let's say I'm breaking down the offense. I'm going to look at their backfield formation, motion, play type. That's all I'm going to do for the first run through a game. Then the next thing, then I'm going to go back and I'm going to look at maybe personnel. I'm going to tag each side of the offensive pass concept. If it's like two different pass concepts on two different sides of formation, I'm going to do that next. I'm structuring it so that I have to watch each play as many times as possible, so that I can see the play as many times as possible as I'm going through and taking a look at it. So obviously, once you get past that, obviously you want to take a look at the last time you guys played, whether that was last year or earlier in the season, if you're in the postseason. And the biggest thing, and to go back to what you were saying, Coach Vass, about self-scouting versus different styles of opponent, I think we face that a lot too. We face a lot of spread, obviously, but we have a wing T team in our league, and we've got some varied opponents that we will face, as well as defensive schemes. So the biggest thing for me, once I've got all the basic data entry done, I want to see where you're lining up all your personnel. And not just skilled person, not necessarily just skilled positions. And again, I'm talking on both sides of the ball here, so forgive me. I know this is supposed to be mainly an offense, but I want to see where you're lining up everybody at, because, your scheme might change week to week. The team you're facing might change week to week, but how much are you actually moving those guys around? And if you're not, why not? And if you are, why are you doing that? So all these things that help me kind of understand the journey that every team goes through this as you go through the year. You start with an install at the beginning of the year. You think you have an idea of what you have, and then halfway through, you might be doing 3 or 4 things new that you didn't expect, because you find out you're better or not as good at something as you thought you were. So that's kind of a long-winded answer, but that's the reason why I do things the way I do, and I just try to grab as much information in that chronological order as possible.
Coach Lowe?
Just to add to that, I think initially what I'm trying to do first is just kind of, trying to zoom out a little bit and kind of get a better feel of, who am I going against? What are these players like? What kind of, coordinator am I going against? What's his personality like? So usually when I kind of go through the first initial watch, I kind of just scan through the game, and I kind of watch a little bit of everything. I want to see, the big special teams play happen. Did they come off a turnover? Did something happen that's going to lead that DC to come either be a little more aggressive or a little more passive? Try to get a little bigger view of everything before I get and dive too deep into the cut-ups. And then before I start really looking at cut-ups, I pull all the explosive plays and I take a look at what are they giving up consistently before I even start data entry and tagging. And then after that, then I get into tagging. And then, as Vass always ingrained it into my head, coverage always dictates the front. So I typically start with the back end first and see what coverages they run, and then dive into the fronts after I get a better idea of, what coverages we're going to see that game, and then what packages we're going to see that game. So that's typically my first initial 12 hours of kind of going into diving into an opponent before we get into a deep dive of cut-ups.
Mr. Fagan.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we're doing is pretty similar. The way we coach is part whole. So we're going to attack the film the same way, go part whole. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the last 3 games the opponent has played, plus any previous games that we've played with the same people. So if a team has changed defensive coordinators, obviously, we're not going to look at that film. But if we've played a team in the past, I think coaches don't change much. So if you've consistently played the same team year after year after year with the same coach, maybe he's going to tweak stuff based on his personnel, but by and large, he's going to be who he is because that's, he's been coaching for as long as whatever. That's kind of who he is. So I think you get a lot more out of a film from your game versus any opponents. We are going to look at the last 3 games, though. So, and what we're going to do is we segment it. The offensive line and the running backs coach are going to get together. They're going to label all the fronts and pressures. The quarterback coach and the wide receiver coach. Now, when I was the offensive coordinator, I was the quarterback coach, so it would be just the wide receivers coach. I got a Coach Blyer. Yeah, I think he's on here. I got to give him a shout out. So Coach Mark Blyer would go over all the coverages and reactions of just the back end. And then I'm going to label the opponent's offensive formations and motions. I'm going to look at any special situations, like Coach Lowe said, off a turnover. I'm going to look at the first play off the turnover, what the defense do. And then I'm going to look at any 6- and 7-man pressures. 5-man pressures don't bother me. Our rules should take care of that. It's a 6- and 7-man pressure that we have to deal with. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to look at fronts and pressures. Offensive line and running back coach are going to tag team that film and work on that. The wide receivers coach is going to label all the coverages and reactions. And then I'm going to label the opponent's offensive formations, look at any special situations, and 6- and 7-man pressures. And then I can get into, I don't know, Coach Vass, you want me to get into how we label it?
Keith, wondering if you might be able to show us what that looks like as you're doing this in the analysis beta, for instance. I know being able to pull up multiple games, for instance, in a playlist and just looking through those tendencies, for instance.
So now what I want to look at is, so here are the fronts, right? So this team we played was just split or odd. And again, I can go through what split means, what odd means, and all that stuff. But we're going to label the front based on 5 categories: split, odd, even, stack, or bare. And that's just the box configuration. And again, I actually have, I can go through all that, but essentially, even's just a 4-1 box, split's a 4-2 box, odd 3-2, stack 3-3, bare 5-2. I have these, the pictures that represent the different fronts. So we're going to label that. We're going to label the fronts, one of those 5. The coverages are going to get 0 poster split, pressures, and reactions. Reactions on the secondary to any motion, right? So now all of that. There we go. All of that's going to get labeled. So this team was, the only fronts they were in were odd or split. All right, they were in a 3-down team, and split would be if they walked an outside linebacker up on the line of scrimmage and as an overhang player, and then you can get what they're doing. Why are they odd? Why are they split? With the whole beta. Then we look at. You can look at what the reactions are. Now this team was a bump team, so they were gonna bump the coverage to motion. They weren't gonna invert and go post safety. and they weren't gonna play man, they weren't gonna run with it. So when motion occurs, they're simply, this guy was supposed to bump over, but and now I am cheating a little bit because I was on that staff that we played for 12 years. So I knew this kid was supposed to bump over with motion, even though he didn't. So I labeled it as bump, if that makes any sense. But as you can see, so once you get into the beta and you've got the things labeled, then it simply comes up, coverage. Now, again, they were going to be just these 5 plays. They were going to be split or safe, all 5 plays, they were split safeties. But again, and we're going to label the coverages. I think I went through that, 1 of 3 things, either split, post, or 0. And then, but those 3 things or 4 things, if you count the pressures, they only pressured 1 time this whole game. That's going to come through in the game plan. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but
100%.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate that. So the next question goes into, it's kind of a 2-part question, and it covers a lot of ground. So now you've done your breakdown. I'm assuming by now you're about to walk into your staff meeting. I know some people have staff meetings, some people don't, depending on the makeup of your staff. I know, for example, when I was at Sarah, we had staff meetings, and it just became, it was, guys were off campus and they were away from home all week, especially with a lot of Saturday games. So there was no, like, you play on Friday, they're home on Saturday, and then we would go to work on Sunday. So it became too much. So we'd work remotely, and I would be checking in with coaches. So maybe it's not such a clear-cut answer because you're kind of game planning as you go along. But let's just say you are on a staff where you're going to sit down and you're going to have a staff meeting, and you're either going to game plan together or you're going to talk about the game plan that you come up with and kind of review it a little bit. How does the data/film that you've been watching affect your game planning on Sunday? And then, so kind of take all the information that you've gleaned, how it's going to affect your game plan. And then as the week goes on, kind of just, if you want to, we can get more in depth in this. I'll tell you what, let's answer that question first. And then I'll because I kind of put 2 questions into one, but like, the first question was about like 12 hours a week, and the second question was about 12 hours a week, and the third question was the rest of the week. So let's kind of split this up. I was worried about going over on time, but we're doing well. So let's just say, let's talk about game planning. Now we're talking about from the start of your game planning meeting to you're heading out to your first practice on Monday. How is the data? How is the film influencing your decisions? How is it guiding you? And then Steven, you'll go Steven.
Yeah.
I actually have this wrong. It's Steven, Alan, or Alex, and then Keith.
Yeah, so I think once we get all the data entry in and we start looking at it, I want to start taking a look at, we're initially going to start off with our base game plan first, base protection, base run game, base passing game that we're going to have in freewheeling zone. And I basically start throwing up ideas for red zone and third down, other situations starting on Sunday, but I really don't finish that game plan until later on the week. So back to like our base game plan, I want to see personnel-wise, what are they doing with their personnel, and are there any patterns within any type of coverages, pressures, fronts that they're bringing with that? Because all I'm trying to do is I'm trying to cut some of the learning time down during the week. Because if I can spot personnel and we can see things, from before, we even call a play in, that can really cut down the amount of time that we spent during our practice week. So we don't have to practice, our base run versus 5 different fronts. So if we know in a certain down and distance or field zone, they're going to be in a certain package, we could really cut down the learning time and get better at, attacking specifically what we're going to be seeing. And then as a later on, process of the week, we can kind of, touch on our contingency plans if they give us something else different. That's the number one thing I'm looking for initially when I'm looking at data. It's tough because you get a crapshoot of, different offenses that, the defense is going against, different personnel, decisions that they're making to stop certain people. So a lot of times, you could be chasing a ghost by looking at some of that stuff. So part of it is by looking at some of the global stuff and kind of seeing how they use their personnel to solve problems. I think helps to figure out for you to piece the puzzle of, okay, like what do we have that they're going to be like, wow, we need to stop that, or we got to take away these 5 plays from our offense, so that we know, okay, going into it, we know we're good at gap schemes and vertical passing game. That's our offense. Well, okay, we might need to spend some more time balancing our offense up this week and making sure that we have these tendencies. We know we have them. So what? But as long as we have things to cover it and we can practice it without, going overboard with time and wasting our energy for the week, putting a bunch of different things in. That's kind of how it dictates, my practice planning for the week. After kind of initially going into the cut-ups, the first thing I look at is how do they cover surfaces. So really, I take a look from the back end first. I take a look at how do they cover like a dead tight end surface, a tight end wing surface. How do they cover a 1 receiver, a 2 receiver, a 3 receiver set? How do they cover bunches, stacks? How do they deal with motions? Because if I can kind of get the rules of what they want to do there, then I'll have a better idea of what I want to do to attack them with, coverage beaters or different run plays to attack, different edges. Like what's going to get my advantage here. So that's kind of where I get into the meat and potatoes of looking through the cut-ups and really taking the notes. And initially I do that by myself first, and then we kind of separate out, and we have, I call it the run guild, but the run guild comes together. We talk about the run game, and then our back end coaches talk about the passing game in a separate meeting. And that kind of piece everything together once we kind of throw our ideas out there to make sure that we have a balanced offense that's going to be able to, have answers on Friday night.
Awesome stuff. Actually, I had it right the first time. Keith, you're next. But I just want to say, I got some of my defensive friends texting me. By the way, thank you, Hudl, for putting this on.
You're welcome.
Pandemic or not, the fact that us defensive spies can sit on our couch or wherever we are, it's hard in those local clinics because everybody knows who you are, and you try to sneak in the back of the offensive room. Everybody's like, this guy's a defensive coach, and they out you. But you could put a fake name, a fake email address. Nobody knows who you are. You can just come in. I saw, for all my defensive buddies who are like, I'm under a fake name, this is awesome. Yeah, you're welcome.
So we're trading in espionage in addition to trying to get people to engage in analysis beta tonight, huh?
Right, exactly. Go use the beta analysis tool.
Yeah.
All right, Keith, you're up.
That's awesome. Well, all right, here's my first opportunity for my shameless plug for the NZone football system. But in the NZone system, we only have 3 run schemes. All right, we're going to run inside zone, we're going to run power read, and we're going to run counter, GT or HD counter. Now, I do cheat because if I bring the H back in, it's power, not power read, but I don't tell the quarterback that. I still, make him believe it's actually power read, but we're going to block everybody with the H back. But my point is, because we only have those 3 schemes, it doesn't matter what the other offense is. It doesn't matter what the opponent's offense is, because, there's 6, 7, or 8 gaps, so they got to defend those gaps. So if they're playing a triple team, under center option team, or they're playing old school 21 I personnel team, doesn't matter to me because the front is the front is the front. So, and it doesn't matter to me, are they sending a 3 tech to the back? Are they not sending it to the back? That doesn't matter to me either, because we're running inside zone. It's going to end up being, if they're a split front team, it's going to end up being run at the 2I. So if they put the 3 tech to the back, well, it's going to hit the front side A gap. If they put the 3 tech opposite the back, well, it's going to cut back, hit the backside opposite gap. So we know that as coaches, we know where the ball is going to hit, but our rules take care of that with the offensive line. So they don't have to know whether they have a 3 tech to them or a 2I to them before we go into the game. So, as far as that goes, with just the 3 run schemes, I think it makes it a lot easier as far as that goes. Now, what we're going to do is we already said that the offensive line coach and the running back coach are a tandem working together, and then the quarterback receivers coach are working together. They're going to stay working together. So after we've labeled everything, they're going to break off as individuals for an hour. So the O-line coach goes by himself, running back coach by himself, et cetera. And they're just going to look at the film for an hour. And they're going to look at it however they want to look at it. Like Coach Lowe, what I like to do with that hour is I put on Hudl, I put on play all clips, I press the first play, I sort it by defense, obviously. So just the defensive clips are up, the opponent's offense. And I sit back and I watch and I just let it run. Just let it run through. Now you got to remember it's already been labeled. So I can see, okay, that's a split post run defense. So now I know what defense I'm looking at because it's already been labeled. And I'll just let it play through all 3 games. Boom, 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 boom. Okay. Then, so after that hour is up, then I'm going to meet with in this case, Mark Blyer, the receivers coach, and we're going to go over the pass game. Why? Because it gives the offensive line coach and the running back coach an extra half hour while we're meeting. They get together and go over some stuff. So they get an hour by themselves, a half an hour together before I'm going to meet with them. So for that half an hour, we're going to go over all the pass game, all the coverage clips. Hey, listen, what are they doing that we don't think is an advantage for us? Okay, well, when we run Y cross, that safety, I don't know if our Y can beat that safety. So those types of things we're going to discuss in that half an hour. Then I'm going to flip and I'm going to go with the offensive line, the running back coach, and we're going to talk about any run game or pass pro issues. Okay. Usually if we're talking about the pass pro, the running back guy leaves because we're all empty protection. We always release the back. So he just has to run routes. So we're going to talk about that for a half an hour. And then like Vass, like you said, that staff meeting, 15 minutes. You got 15 minutes to make your case on anything that you would like to see in the game plan. So now I've already had discussions with those guys for a half an hour about what we think is going to go in. So it gives them the opportunity to say, hey, oh, you know what? Hey, we didn't talk about, curl flat. I really think curl flat's good this week. Why? Because this, whatever. But it's 15 minutes. Because otherwise, I think if you don't put a time on it, I think it, like you said, Coach, it just goes on and on and on. But that's what we're going to do. We're going to spend an hour by ourselves, half an hour with one group, half an hour with the other group, and then 15 minutes together as a staff.
Yeah, those staff meetings can degenerate into. I hate Sunday staff meetings. It is the worst. I mean, if you look at me during the staff meeting, it's just like I smelled a dirty diaper the entire. I'm like pouting in the corner, because I don't need to talk about the socks color. Let me just do my thing, and it's just. I've been on staffs where the Sunday ticket was on, and then they want to talk about fantasy football. Nobody cares about your fantasy football team. So time limits, I'm down with that. Quick question for you, NZone related.
Yes, sir.
Did Noel change? I thought they were outside zone, or am I just wrong? Flat ass wrong.
Nah, wrong. Well, he does run some outside zone.
Okay.
He does run some outside zone.
I'm sorry. I thought it was outside zone, power read, and counter. My bad.
You know what? He doesn't run a lot of power read. So he's an inside zone pin pull. He's big on the pin pull. I just think with high school defenses, like Coach Lowe was saying, you can see, I only care about the box. I want to know, is it, are there 5 guys in there? Are there 6 guys in there or 7 guys in there? But that configuration of those 5, 6, or 7 people can change week to week, play to play, hour to hour. In FBS football, you guys at home watching in FBS football, I guarantee you, here's what you will always see in FBS football. On first and second down, you're going to see a 3-tech, a 2-eye, and 2 5-techs. On third down, all hell's going to break loose. But on first and second down, you're going to see 4 down, 2 linebackers, and it's going to be a 2-eye, a 3, and 2 5s come hell or high water. That's all you're going to see. So it's much easier, I think, for them to run pin pull or to run, different gap schemes where offensive linemen have to communicate with each other more so than in high school.
Gotcha. All right, Mr. Kirby, what you got?
Well, I'm kind of the opposite a little bit, Coach Vass. I actually love Sunday staff meetings. I really do. He's shaking his head right now. We do a good job of putting the time limit on it. We're usually out of there by noon, but we come in at 8. We usually spend 45 minutes to an hour talking about issues with the previous game. So that's the last time that we talk about the previous game. Like, hey,
Are you talking about one side of the ball or all staff?
I'm talking full staff for an hour, where we come in for an hour. And I love that because it gets us a chance to talk about all sorts of things that need to be talked about. And whatever, like, sometimes, we got 150 kids in our program. We got great issues. We got all sorts of things going on. So sometimes we just got to deal with stuff. Now, once that is done, 45 minutes to an hour, we talk about practice schedules, special teams, depth chart, all that stuff. We will split into offense and defense. And once that happens, we're going to start with formations, number one, because, I'm not breaking any news here. Anybody that scouts us knows we don't have that many formations most of the time. Now we'll throw in a few new ones here or there, but we're mostly a 2x2, 3x1 up tempo team. We run a lot of zone, run a lot of counter, run a good amount of RPO stuff. But basically, we're going to start with our formations, and we're going to try to pick out from the data, sort of what Coach Lowe was saying, where are the times where we know what we're going to get, basically? Like, what are their 100% type of situations? Like, are they going to be in some kind of nickel, 33 double A gap open, whatever you want to call it? When are they going to be in those type of fronts? That obviously makes it easier. I think the other advantage too, and anybody who's worked at the high school level for a certain amount of time around a certain area will tell you, it's like Coach Fagan was saying earlier, coaches don't change that much. And when you coach in the same conference for a long enough time, at least in our area, guys don't move around that much. And if they do move around, they move to the school down the road. They don't move 3 states over. You know what I mean? So I'll tell you, I mean, there's a lot of coaches in our conference that are still there from when I was in high school that we're playing against. So that's what I like about it. So there's not a whole lot of guesswork. Now, sometimes there are some wrinkles that they throw in, and guys will change up a little bit. But, I remember talking about a fake punt that somebody ran in 2006, and they were still running a similar style fake punt team, this year. And that's what I really actually do love that, because I think that's one of the cool things about high school football. But those are the things that help us save time. So when we start with formations, we go from there. We kind of know what we're going to get in certain situations, and then we start with what we're good at. Inside, outside zone. We run a lot of different versions of counter read, inverted counter read, that type of stuff. Gives people a lot of problems, and we can dress it up a lot of different ways. Yeah. So as the week goes on, like I said, we'll be out of there by noon, and we'll kind of have the basic foundation of the game plan pretty much ready. We'll say, hey, here are 4 or 5 things maybe we're going to take a look at in practice this week. We'll see if we like them. If not, we'll shelve them. But as we go through the week, and this is another reason why we spend a little bit more time as a full staff on Sunday, we kind of walk through the practice schedules and make sure each time, situation is covered to where it needs to be. And maybe there's some logistical issues. But as the week goes on, we're going to hammer down each portion of our game plan: red zone, third down, short yardage, all that stuff. Maybe 2-point plays. If we feel like we got to draw up a couple of 2-point plays this week, we'll take a look at that 2-minute drill. But as we're going through the week, we're always going to keep rewatching. And I think the further you get into the week, at least for me and the guys that I work with, that's kind of when you're digging into the cut-ups real deep. You're saying, hey, we're going to be practicing it's Wednesday. We're going to look at our third down package. So let's, it's Tuesday night after practice. Let's dive into their third down a little bit. And, we'll fire off some emails and texts back and forth. Hey, what are you seeing here? That type of thing. And then for me, for my position, as I said at the beginning of this, I'm not there every day. I'm doing film work every day. But once we get to basically this point in the week, my focus honestly shifts to next week's opponent, because I want to start getting ready for what we're going to look at and be ready for next week, because that's how I can help us the best, since I'm not there coaching the kids up and being involved on a daily basis. What I do is I try to keep us a week ahead. So by the time we roll in there on Sunday morning, I'll have everything done. And honestly, it saves me a lot of time on Saturday. Not that I'm going to sit around and do much else. If I get ahead of myself on Saturday, I'm going to spend that time honestly diving back into it again, but it helps me get ahead of where I want to be for the next week. So that's kind of my process and our process.
Alex, you mentioned about the deep dives, and I don't know if there's opportunity to talk about some of those playlists we had talked about last week with the player, but like where are your eyes wandering when you talking about those deep dives? Like, what does that look like when you mentioned about like third down, for instance?
Well, I think it depends on which opponent you're dealing with, because everybody does different things, obviously, and everybody has different strengths. As I'm going through that first round of data entry, as I'm looking at somebody for the first time, I've got a notebook next to me as I'm putting things in. Hey, this might not turn out to be anything, but I'm going to save this for later. And then by the time I've gone through and watched all the plays and done all the data entry, I've got, several pages of notes, and some of them, you see something early and it may not turn out to be anything, but it kind of a base to go back through and look at. And then another thing why I love getting together with the staff as a whole, and especially, with splitting into each side of the ball, I'll hear 3 or 4 things that I might've missed. Just like, hey, when the quarterback, moves his hands this way, that's kind of a signal for the snap. Or, when this guy is always the blitzer, that type of thing. So I'm kind of digesting all that stuff. And then we'll say, hey, how many times do they do this? And is there ever a time when they break this tendency? And these are the types of things that I'm going in and trying to find. And that's where I make liberal use of custom columns. I seem to add a new custom column every week just based on, the team that we're playing and all that stuff. So I'm a big fan of that. I think I've probably doubled the size of our column set on Hudl by this point in the year, because we're always trying to find something new. And this team may use a lot of different cadences. So we want to keep track of that. So there's all sorts of things that I keep track of. I hope that answers your question, but it really is opponent specific.
Yeah. I'm just curious, like how you avoid paralysis by analysis when you're looking at the data in the Hudl, you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I think part of that too just comes back to, most of the guys that we're playing against, we've been coaching and playing against them for long enough that, like we know certain guys are just not going to run a fake punt on 4th and 10. You know what I mean? It's like this they're not going to do that. Most of these guys, we know that this certain coach, he ain't going to line up in, double A gap cover 0 on 3rd and long. It's that type of stuff. Like their personalities inform most of what we're doing. I'm a big believer in data. I think numbers are great. I think they give you a great place to start. But I think at the end of the day, you got to make a lot of decisions based on familiarity and what and for lack of a better term, gut feeling. I just really believe that. I think at the end of the day, you're dealing with humans and not numbers.
Coach Lowe?
So we divide up our week kind of a major emphasis per day. So, we kind of go into the deeper dive into each scenario and situation that we have kind of as emphasis for that day. And then that's kind of where I finish up my game planning and kind of start putting stuff on paper. And then after we see it on film, then we kind of either we give it the go or we give it the axe. But typically what I'm doing and what's shaping me during how I'm using data to basically shape my decision-making process, what goes in practice is, okay, if we're looking at a certain situation like 3rd down, for instance, if we know we're going to get these 3 coverages, the stuff I put in for that week better have, the answers to meet those 3 coverages or whatever pressures or things are coming in. Because, if you take a look at it, your practice time in the week is very, very limited. We're blessed that we're 2 platoon and we can get multiple team periods with basically a scout defense for us. We get a lot of reps more so than some other places I've been at before.
Hey,
but
Coach, real quick, sorry to interrupt. Can you tell us how you do your scout cards? Just real quick, just for the audience, just real fast. Sorry. Go ahead.
We put them on a jumbotron.
Oh, well, that's cool. Coach does scout cards off the jumbotron, so
yes.
You want to hate him even more.
Yeah.
There you go. Sorry, Coach. Continue.
Okay. I appreciate that. But, that's basically what we're trying to take a look at our practice reps. And we're trying to, really maximize the time that we have to make sure that the reps that we're spending, we're not wasting our time. I mean, we know exactly what 2 or 3 pressures we're going to be having to stop, or what poses problems, or what we're going to have to spend time on fixing. And, really we're just trying to solve problems and trying to piece together, the puzzle of, what are we good at doing and how can we continue to do it while also having, a backup plan for the other options of things that they can give you in certain down distances. So typically we break down our week. Monday's going to be our open down, first and second down. And we'll have a period on Tuesday and Wednesday. We'll still work that. Typically on Tuesdays, we'll work our third down package, things that we're going to get during that package. And then also Wednesday, red zone goal line. We'll do kind of 4 minute, 2 minutes, some other specialty situations in our run through practice. But, during that time, I'm focusing our meeting. I'm focusing our clips that we send out to the kids. All of it's focusing on whatever our emphasis is for that day. So,
Coach Fagan.
Stuff, Coach. So, our definitely, as we work through the week, is definitely synced up with what we're practicing. So Mondays is creation day. So what we're going to do is we're going to meet after practice, or, a lot of times we steal some time when the strength and conditioning guys, putting the guys through lifting their run and stuff. Maybe we'll steal some time, and we're going to spend 30 minutes and create all the 2-back, H-back, and empty offense we want to run that week. And it really doesn't matter what the defense is in. It's a matter of how do we want to attack it? How do we want to get after it? So we'll do, 30 minutes. We do all the 2-back, H-back, and empty. I know you defensive guys, for us, 2-back is when there are 2 backs equidistant or as close to the quarterback as a running back would. And, the H-back is where he's hipped, wherever he's going to be on the offensive tackle. So I know a lot of guys think that, that could be 20 personnel. For us, that's 11 personnel. The 2 backs in the backfield would be 20 personnel for us. But we're gonna spend some time, half an hour, creating all that stuff, 2-back, H-back, whatever. Then myself, the running back coach, and the offensive line coach, we're gonna get together for 45 minutes and create a base run game. So the 10 personnel base run game, what we want, again, with all the window dressing, with all the different, because it's the same 3 schemes, just a matter of how do we want to dress it up. Well, that might make a difference to just the right tackle. So we tell the running back coach, listen, this is how you're coaching the running back up this week when we're running HG, instead of GT, GH, how we're going to coach them up doing that. That's going to be about 45 minutes. Then I'm going to spend 15 minutes doing the base pass game with the receivers coach. And then I'm going to spend the last hour creating the first 20 script. So now I have the whole, all the base stuff. And so we don't repeat it, or, we don't have a lot of redundancy. I'm going to create 20 plays that are just going to be run, from that, getting in and out of formations and all that good stuff. So essentially that's going to happen on Monday. Then on Tuesday, we've practiced, 2 run schemes and 2 pass schemes that day. So then we're going to go watch the practice film that night. So, usually we do, we'll do inside zone and power read in the run game, just groups. So the receivers are off doing their own thing, because our offense is 100% RPO. So every single play has an RPO tag on it. So those receivers are just spending all game, all practice, just practicing the RPO tags, working on the RPO, while just the 5 offensive linemen, quarterback and running back, are working on the run game. So for us, group run means that the offensive line, running back, and quarterback are working on the run game, and then quarterbacks will flip, but then the other quarterback and the receivers are working on the RPO game during the group run period. Then during group pass, the offensive line is going to go and work on pass pro, while the skill guys are working on the pass game. But so we're gonna do 2 run games, 2 pass games on Tuesday's practice. So then Tuesday night we're gonna watch that film. We're gonna spend that time watching that film. So an hour is going to be spent with myself, the offensive line and running back coach, watching the group 1, while the receivers coach is watching the opponent's 3rd and long defense. Then for an hour, we're going to flip. I'll get together with the receivers coach. We'll watch the practice film of the RPO stuff and the pass game. And then the offensive line and the running back coach are going to go watch the opponent's 3rd and short. And then we'll get together last half an hour. We'll get together and we'll put together what our short yardage and goal line game plan is going to be for that week. And then Wednesday, again, we're going to practice the 3rd run scheme and the 3rd pass scheme. And we're going to do all our short yardage stuff. Plus, we have a segment where I was carrying about 22 one-word plays. So we would have a 10-minute segment every Wednesday. We called it One Word Wednesday. And the challenge to the kid was, how many times can we run through the 22 one-word plays in 10 minutes? Most we ever got was 2.5 times. So, we got through 55 plays in 10 minutes. It's pretty good. They were moving that day. But so then we film that. So then we're going to also look at that film and, Wednesday after practice, we're going to look at that and say, okay, what are the one-word plays they're really not executing that well? And what do we want to make sure that we're not calling in the games? But that's essentially how our week is going to go.
I want to kind of interject a question here. I want to talk about pass protection. Because we talked about a lot of, run schemes and some of the pass stuff, but how are you guys game planning your protection? And we can just, Steve, I'll start with you and we'll just kind of bounce around now. How are you, how are you going about evaluating what you want to do protection-wise? Or is it one of these things where you just say, well, this is what we do and we're just going to go do that? You know what I mean? Like,
it's a balance of both sometimes. I mean, there's times where, I'm going to make the call to basically say, screw it, we're going to do what we do. And then there's other times where, I know distinctly we're getting some sort of pressure off of our back, off of a field zone, in a certain field zone, where we can set it and put it to the odds of where we're going to get pressure from. And then we spend a lot of time on pre-snap process of, going through, checking through basically the top part of the coverage and looking for roll or looking for cover downs and stacks to where we give our quarterback the ability to flip that kind of stuff. So that helps a lot to fix some problems during game day. But we do run some numbers and we figure out if there are any type of, big tells that we're going to get from, where they're going to typically send their pressure. We'd love to get our 5 guys on their 5 rushers and get our back out as much as possible. So it's a little bit of both for us.
Do you have, and including your answer, do you guys have any columns for, like, what do you tag on defense besides front? Like, if you wouldn't mind sharing with us a little bit of how you, in the analysis feature, how you have protection set up. I don't know if you have any access to scout film, but are you doing, like, obviously I know you do front, but are you doing like number of rushers, then you name the blitzes, or do you have like a super generic, like the kind of the West Coast where it's like Sam plus C / Will minus A, or do you name concepts? Do you, like, how do you, besides just writing stuff down, like how are you tagging that in Hudl, and how are you using that information to inform how you're game planning your pass pro?
I don't have more scout film. I deleted all of it, but I'll kind of give you a process of how we do it. But we do it like a matrix. So we basically do the number of rushers. We name the blitz structure. So I basically use our O-line coach had a previous naming structure for, like, all right, inside linebacker blitzes, double edge blitzes, NCA blitzes, whatever the blitz scheme is. And then we basically go from, does it come from a tight end? Does it come away from the tight end? Does it go to the back, away from the back, field, boundary, left, right? So by looking at those, we try to look to see if there's any glaring, statistical, like, oh wow, like they're completely blitzing off the back. Everything they do is trying to, overload the man side of the protection in half slide, or, oh man, this is really a boundary team that wants to send pressure from the boundary. So that's typically how we do it. So after looking at the matrix, we can kind of figure out, okay, what are the numbers showing us and what's the story telling us there on film too.
Got you. Alex, you said you're the column master. Do you have anything to add in terms of when you're breaking down protections and how you use, the data entry columns to get to that?
Well, the thing I would say, just as a general principle and not just with breaking down pressures or anything else, is I'm not going to get complex until you force me to be. So in other words, like if we're facing a team that sends the same 3 blitzes over and over, I'm just gonna name those blitzes. I'm gonna move on. If I'm facing a crazy like odd stack, pressure from everywhere type of thing, then I'm probably going to get more into the details. And I might even go as far as, I've done this a couple times, basically create a column for each player in the front 7, front 8, and kind of describe their role, at least during the heavy blitz packages, at least in certain situations. So that way I can literally go, hey, here's all the times when number 46 blitzed through the A gap. Like I have all those. Now that's not every week, because otherwise I wouldn't get any sleep. There's just no way you can do that constantly. But if it calls for it, I think there's a lot of merit to doing that, because I think you can simplify a lot of things that might look more complex than they actually are. So that's as far as custom columns go. I'm going to start out simple, but if I see a few things, that's the beauty of what I'm doing, is I don't have a position to coach during the week, so I can kind of dive in and spend a little bit more time doing that sort of thing. And if you're spending time on the weekends, and if you got extra time and you feel like that's necessary, it can be valuable depending on the opponent that you're looking at. As far as actually setting up pass protections, we've obviously got the same type of stuff everybody else does: drop back, boot, sprint out, that type of stuff. But at a certain point, like I said, we're a heavy RPO team. So if somebody's going to send repeatedly a whole bunch of stuff against us, we're just going to throw the RPO. I mean, we're not going to try and teach our guys a whole bunch of new things. We're just going to make our quarterback responsible for that guy. And, hopefully they keep doing it, so that's kind of the way we look at it.
Do you have now? I recognize that one of the challenges of this conversation, it's easy for me because I'm unaffiliated this year. I'm going to help out. If California is ever allowed to play football, I will help out the Braves and things, but I'm currently unaffiliated. I was helping out my alma mater. So, but I understand that you guys are coaching in places, or you're, Keith, you're taking the year off, but I don't know if you're helping anybody. So I know it's tough because you don't want to show film of an opponent. You want to show, I'll show film of my own, but showing how you would break down an opponent that you've played. But I don't know, would you mind sharing with us like a team that you don't play anymore, or somebody that's retired, or do you have anything that like you could show or not? I mean, I don't, if not, I understand. I know this is kind of a delicate, especially being in season.
I don't have film, but I have the Google slide presentation about the Pass Pro. But as far as Pass Pro goes,
or anything, like identifying defenses.
Yeah. Well, I have that. But the first thing I do, and I learned this very early, the first thing I do is I sit down with all the quarterbacks, anybody that even thinks they might be a quarterback. And the first thing I do is I make sure they know how to count to 3. It sounds simple. It sounds easy. You would think at 16, 17, 18 years old, they know how to count to 3, but you got to make sure, because that's how we set our Pass Pro. We're a half slide, half man team. So we got 5 offensive linemen. 3 of them are going to take the A, B, and C gap to the 3-man side, and the 2 on the back side are going to man up, right? So half slide, half bob, right? So the quarterback is going to set the protection wherever there are 3 potential rushers, okay? Now, if he counts 3 over there and 3 over there, obviously, then he wants to set it to wherever he's looking. He wants to set, the man side to wherever he's looking, because if 3 come on both sides, we can't handle, the man side can't handle 3, okay? Then what we're going to do is 5-man pressures don't bother me, because our rules should take care of that. In reality, 6-man pressures don't really bother me because they got 5 left and we got 5 because everything we do is empty protection. So we got the 4 receivers in the back, right? And here's what I tell the quarterback. Count 3 on each side, right? And you think all 6 are coming. Throw it to the back. Just throw it to the back because whoever is covering the back on defense has to stay on their side of the ball. They're not allowed, last time I checked, they can't come over on our side of the ball before the ball is snapped. So I tell the quarterback, who would you rather have the ball in their hand getting hit really hard for a 5-yard, 6-yard loss? You or the running back? So just throw it to him because here's the deal. If he's holding out to the ball, looking down the field and gets sacked, it's a 6-yard loss, right? If he gets the ball and he sees 3 on each side and he knows they're coming, he just takes it and throws it to the running back. Well, the guy covering the running back is coming from depth. So if our guy is really bad and their guy's really good, it's a 6-yard loss. But if it's even, maybe our guy makes it miss and now he's out. Or at worst case, maybe the back can get back to the line of scrimmage and we can do it all over again. But the really only thing that's troublesome is 7-man protection. And that's if that 7-man can get to your quarterback, obviously before you can throw it to the running back because there ain't nobody left to cover the running back unless they blitz peel. But let me share my screen and go over how we label those. All right. So it's really simple in my mind. We're going to break it down 6 or 7-man, and we're going to break it down inside, outside, combo. So inside is if the defense is trying to blitz the A or the B gap. Okay. Outside is if they're trying to blitz the C or the D gap, pressure the C or the D gap. And combo is obviously one side is doing A or B, the other side is doing C or D. All right. So a 6-man pressure inside is where they're going to bring some kind of pressure, and they're going to bring, a rusher, obviously through every gap, but the second level defender is trying to get through the A or the B gap. 6 outside is same thing. The second level defender is trying to pressure, and this is just drawn up one way, but it could be, the T is through the A gap, the outside B is through the C gap, and the inside B is through the B gap. Doesn't matter. They're trying to bring a third level defender through the C or the D gap. All right, if it's outside. Then with a combo, one side is trying to attack the the A or the B gap, the other side's trying to attack the C gap. And then we're going to do the same thing with the 7-man pressures. So is it 7 inside? Is it 7 outside? Or is it 7 combo? And those go in the pressure column as simply 6I, 6O, 6C, 7I, 7O, 7C. And that way I can sort everything by, first of all, when you look at the beta, it'll tell you this is not a 6-0, this is not a 6-0 team. Every time they bring pressure, they're bringing pressure up the middle. They're going to pressure the middle. Well, now I'm going to coach quarterback up during the week. Now it's really important you fling that thing out to the running back, because somebody from the defense, is trying to cover it, from the inside out. In other words, you know what I'm saying? So in other words, an inside rusher is not going to be able to get to the running back if they're blitz peeling or doing whatever they're doing. Or it's going to be the free safety coming from depth. Awesome. I don't know if that makes any sense.
No, it's great. You're so organized. You're organized, and you take complex topics and you make them simple. But let me ask you this. Do you think your time limits with your meetings, was that your idea with having those time limits on those meetings?
I got to do it myself because I'll talk and talk and talk for hours. I mean, I don't know if you remember, you and I had a 45-minute conversation about 3x1 into the boundary. 45 minutes you and I talked for one time.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, I'll just keep talking and talking and talking. So if I got to limit myself.
Is that one of your Wall Street rules?
Exactly.
Coach, if for those of you who don't know, Coach, I think I have such a kindred spirit, Keith and I, because I was a musician in college, like in a band, not the band. Big difference. One I'm wearing a deal with tubas, and the other one Anyway, and Keith comes from Wall Street, and so I've always, when you told me that, I was like, all right, this is my guy. So I've enjoyed watching how that prior life, and I know you were in Wall Street and coaching at the same time too. It wasn't like you did that and then coached. How it influences some of your out of the box thinking influences that stuff. We talked about with NZone and a bunch of other stuff. So appreciate that. So we got one more question. It won't take very long, and then we're going to go to the Q&A, and then we'll wrap up. So I'll go back through the original order written down here. I call the audible there on question 3. My apologies. So my question is, and I know I want to restrict this to the data in the film. Obviously, I guess I want to restrict it to the data in the film in terms of tendencies and play calling. I know that you have a great idea on Sunday, you practice it all week, it sucks, it gets thrown out. Very few times are you really going to stick with something because you just know it's going to hit game day. Usually a lot of us, minus the crazy story here and there at Boise, Stephen Lowe, where you practice something, it sucks, and then you do it in the game and you pull it off. So I understand there's all that. Or you're really just running inside zone that really well that week, so you're going to feature that. But strictly talking about the data in the film breakdown, how does it affect your play calling, especially early in the game? I mean, obviously, if things are going to change in the game. You're an air raid team, and they've been bringing 5- and 6-man pressures, and all of a sudden they're drop 8. They've watched Washington and every other team worth a damn take apart. I'm not going to go there. I forgot this is an offensive chat. I better watch myself before I get banned.
PG-13, Vass.
Hey, listen, there's growth. There's growth here. I almost went there. But anyway, there's things change in a game. But how does that data, though, the film breakdown, so the stuff that you learned through your hands by you taking notes, watching film, jotting stuff down, and then the actual hard numbers and data, how does that affect your play calling? Keith, we'll start with you. You're muted, my friend.
Yeah, I was typing a response to one of the questions. I apologize. Data is everything. Data drives everything. Again, shameless plug for the NZone system, but one of the beautiful things I love about the NZone system is it's a la carte, okay? So, I spent 12 years under one of the winningest coaches in New York State history. I mean, while I was part of the program and it had nothing to do with me and everything to do with the head coach, for my 12 years there, we were 112-16. So we lost 16 games in 12 years, everything to do with him. And one of the things he taught me, he came from the wing tee. He was a wing tee guy. Eventually we went to the Gus Malzahn spread because it was wing tee based and all that good stuff. And one thing he always taught me, if you don't practice it, don't call it in the game. Well, with the NZone, it frees you up because it's an a la carte menu. So you have the run scheme, you got the formation, the run scheme, the tag, the motion, the RPO. So if you want your slot receiver to go in motion, for me, that's slide. So I can put together, so I'm getting ahead of myself. So the ingredients to the meal have been practiced. So all week long, we've gone in slide motion. All week long, we've been 3x1 to the field. All week long, we've run inside zone, and all week long, we've run a certain RPO tag, so called sleep or glance. So we might not have practiced all week long 3x1 to the field, motion into the boundary, run zone to the field with an RPO into the boundary. We might not have practiced it all week long, but the kids all know how to get, for me, that would be flash, slide, if we're on the left hash, flash, slide, Zorro, glance. That combination might not have been practiced all week long, but they've been in flash. They've gone slide motion. They've been in that. So here's my long boring point. So now I know the data. I know what I've seen all week on film, right? So I've created my entire game plan based on that data. And then all of a sudden we get in the game and they're not doing that. Well, I know I got to get off my sheet because that's not going to be the answer. The data told me that. The data told me that I don't have an answer on my sheet because what I'm seeing out on the field is not what I saw all week on thing. And I wouldn't know that if I didn't know that, if I didn't have the data, if I didn't have the box, if I didn't have the coverage, if I didn't have the reactions, if I didn't have the pressures that Hudl provides, any system, Hudl I think is the best at it. If I don't have that data, I can't get off the sheet and call a different play. So, again, I know I went around the mulberry bush. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it's kind of, that's what the data does. It allows you, as offensive coordinators, we all have a play sheet. Some of us have ones that are this big and some of us have ones that are really long. My play sheet is an 8x11 legal pad, double-sided. And essentially the entire offense is on there. Just because, again, with the a la carte stuff, I can call any play at any time and I'm good. But if that's the case, well, then I said quarterback's got to count to 3. Literally anybody that can read can call the offense then. Because all they got to do is just come down from the stands and read off the sheet. So that's not what we do as offensive coordinators. What we do as offensive coordinators, we react to what's in front of us. We're calling the game based on the game. So the data is, in my opinion, there's no possible way somebody that's an offensive coordinator can have no data, go in and start calling plays and be successful. And if that's the case, then I got to bust, my guy Bobby Acasa's chops. Then you're coaching IMG because they got dudes everywhere. But if that's the case, then what are we doing? So I guess what I'm saying is we're calling the game based on the game, and the only way we know the game is because we know the data.
Awesome stuff. Alex, what you got?
I agree with everything he just said. Next. No, I'm just kidding. No, that was really great stuff. I'm totally with you. I would just to add on that, I think everything that has been said is correct. I think as you get deeper into the game, obviously you're kind of more playing off of what you've seen that night in the game, more than what you've seen on film. But early on in the game, I think it's important to verify what you've seen on film. In other words, hey, like I said, we don't have a ton of formations, but we do have a good amount of motions, and maybe we can stack and bunch some things. So let's make sure that they're playing stack and bunch the same way that they did the last couple of weeks. So let's make sure that they're adjusting to, our tailback motion out wide. Let's make sure they're still doing the same stuff. Are they still putting the same people in the same spots? We obviously, I'm sure everybody does the same thing. If you've got a few key players on defense that you're concerned about, you go out during warmups and you make sure those guys are still in pads, right? That's the first thing you do. Make sure those guys are still out there. And then, in the game, it's on you and your staff to figure out, okay, are they still lining him up here against this formation, that type of thing. I think the plays that you're calling are secondary there a little bit because, I think most of the stuff that you practice is probably going to be stuff that you practice constantly. You're going to be good at it no matter what, or you should be good at it no matter what if you're going to call it in the game. But I think more than that, it's the personnel matchups and it's the formations and it's how people are lining up. I think it's more verification than anything else. And then as you get deeper into the game, it just comes down to how well are you tracking what they're doing? Are they changing? What's been successful? The other thing going into the first quarter or so of a game, one thing that we do keep track of a lot when we're breaking down a defense and going back to that whole custom column thing is who was the who was targeted by the last few teams that these guys played, whether it's in the passing game or the run game. Who did they option off of more? Who do they trap more? Who do they throw at more? And because we want to see what other people are seeing first, right? Because that kind of cuts down the work for us a little bit. Where does everybody else attack? And if there's a trend, well, let's figure out why that is. And if it's because maybe that guy isn't as good as the guy on the other side, well, that kind of helps us out, help figure out how we're going to start off the game. So that's just kind of a few things about what we like to do. But I think Coach Fagan really nailed it there with everything he said.
Coach Lowe?
Yeah, just to add to that, I mean, I think this is why you kind of go and try to get those little nuggets of, who you're going against and what they're trying to do with their pieces, because, data sometimes be just not applicable to what you do. And sometimes they might be showing certain things because, it's what they need to do to stop, the bleeding in a certain game, but it might not be the answer for you. So I think finding those nuggets can kind of help you almost have the solution kind of pre-planned out, or at least have a thought into what you would do if you did happen to see, other things that were opposite of data. But I mean, data just gives you a starting point. It definitely helps to direct your week, and it gives you a starting point to basically how you should start and open up your game. And, the major thing we do is, I spend a lot of time with our quarterbacks and making sure that they understand what they're getting. And then also we talk a lot about, what they like doing for this week. And we try to get, our best foot forward, especially with our offense being so heavy through our quarterback's hands. We have to make sure that that's the guy that's got to be on board with everything. Because I don't care how good it looks against the numbers. If that guy taking the rep isn't going to like it, I don't care what you do. I mean, I don't care. I've literally called concepts before because I'm stupid and I'm stubborn sometimes, where it should work. It does work, but for some reason, my quarterback doesn't like seeing it. So it's kind of the art and the science, I think, in looking at the numbers and having to make those judgment calls. And I think that's the fun part about coordinating is it's not just math. There is some psychology. There is some, there's some other components that go into your decision-making process and how you call a game and how you basically recall a game. Like Coach Fagan was saying, I'm constantly re-scripting and putting together a series on a piece of paper of what I'm thinking of next, or what I'm thinking about in 2 or 3 series of what I want to get on there. So, I mean, I definitely think it's data gets you started, but then, the other side, I've seen you prep, I've seen what you do, and I've seen what Coach King does. So that's basically my barometer of what defensive coaches do. You guys are psycho. So, I mean, you guys want to find every part of, you'll probably want to see what I had for lunch, on Sunday.
Oh, I'll know.
Yeah.
I'll know.
He knows, guys. So, you guys are, and you're going to come up with something that's going to give us issues. And, we want to do everything in our power to make sure that we at least have a contingency plan and we've repped it and we're ready to go for when that moment does arrive.
Coach Lowe, just to your point, my number one question or number one thing I say to the team, or number one question I have for the team during a timeout, what do you want to run? Literally, that's how every timeout that the opponent calls start. If obviously we're calling timeout, it's for a specific reason. I'm going to address that. But if the defense is calling a timeout, when the kids come over, go right to the quarterback. What do you want to run? Because if they don't know it, they can't run it.
Yeah. No, I'm 100% with that. I think sometimes we get locked into, I think something's going to work or whatever, and you forget to talk about the one guy that needs to actually do it. It's huge.
So go ahead.
I told my first year there, I had a really great kid, at quarterback, and he's not even playing college football. He was just a really, really good high school football player and a great kid. And I would give him the leeway in practice to tell me, yeah, coach, I'm not sure if this is the greatest thing to run this week. All right, it's out. No problem. I put that trust in him because, again, maybe I think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. Maybe I think, I'm going to go against Coach Vass, and I know for a fact this scheme's going to work because I know what he's going to do. But if the kid doesn't feel comfortable, he's not going to execute it. And, it's about the players, not the play.
All right. First of all, I refuse to believe that DJ Ugalele didn't feel comfortable with anything or didn't feel like had a concept that he was like, I don't like that. Coach. So those of you who don't know, Coach, who was your quarterback last year?
He's pretty good. He's pretty good.
Where does he
Just a
play
little
at?
bit.
The kid who just threw for 400 yards versus Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Did he watch the jumbotron too? Oh.
Yeah.
You know, I gotta give you a hard time.
I appreciate
All
it.
right. So quick hits. We got some questions. 15, 30-second answers. We'll just roll right through. That kind of mixed up some stuff. I may not be able to get to all of them. The first question from Tom Benjamin, and I'll just go Keith, Steve, Alex, then Steve, Alex, Keith, and we'll just go right through. Tom Benjamin wants to know, what's your opinion of asking/requiring players to review their own performance with the film in addition to the staff review? Mr. Fagan.
Waste of time. Kids don't know what they're looking for. They think they're the greatest things ever. I think if a kid is, in my personal opinion, if a kid is being corrected, or if you're trying to coach a kid, you got to be there in front of him. I encourage kids to watch film on their own. Watch the opponent. Give them all the film they want. Watch all you want. But if it's a matter of coaching and critiquing, they got to be with a coach.
Yeah, that was the problem with the early virtual reality stuff. I know Arizona State, I think it was Dennis Erickson was experimenting with that. And it was like the cool thing. And in this vein, oh my God, it's amazing. Like they can practice at home. There's a slight problem. It was unwatched. It was unmonitored. And so you start developing bad habits and you don't have somebody there to help you. And so I understand that. Coach Lowe.
I would agree with that. I mean, for us, we do ask our kids to watch film, but then I also go through kind of the quick and dirty, kind of the good, the bad, the ugly. We basically pick the 5 good, the 5 bad plays, and the 5 plays that were like atrocities, and we hit on that, so we're not just beating it over the head over and over again. But I definitely think you need guidance in that whole process.
I have a tendency to skip all that good stuff. I'm like, yeah, we got to pick 6, but you didn't line up correctly here, and they got 6 yards, and now you're going to hear about it. Coach Kirby.
Totally agree. I think I think like Coach Fagan was saying, a lot of times they don't even know really what they're looking at, and you don't really want them to start practicing bad habits and start thinking, hey, I should have done this instead of that. So I'd say just leave it alone. And that's even if they actually do it, which, we know how high school kids are. Most of them are probably going to be busy doing something else. They'd rather do something else. So I say it's a waste of time, and you're going to be way too frustrated if you expect all your kids to go do that correctly.
Yes, and if you are going to make your kids watch the film, like if you put notes, like sometimes when we were at Sarah and we had a Saturday to Friday deal, and it was a team that like, yeah, we need to fix some things. We need to focus on Monday because we lost today. We would type notes in and then hide secret messages where they had to like text you or something when you get to a certain play. That's how they like send me who's your favorite middle school teacher or whatever. So that's one thing there. Victor Cooper. I wonder if this is the Vic Cooper isn't that Atascadero Low? Vic Cooper? I wonder if that's.
I think so.
Yeah. Coach, if it's you, tell us in the chat. All right. His question is, do you ever evaluate your coaching via game film, i.e. are drills working? So obviously like not if the play is working, but like stuff that you're teaching off the film, or do you use the film to kind of grade yourself that the things you're emphasizing are getting covered?
I personally do. We take a look at, typically when we get kind of 3-4 games in, I take a look by concept and kind of take a look at what plays are kind of failing and what we've done to address it. And then, I take a look at, is that even effective? Is the play working, or do we need to cut it and just move on and constrict a little bit more? So, but I do that.
What was that sign that Patrick had? If
it's on film, you're coaching it.
I hate that.
No. You see, you have to twist it all the other way. When your player would like drop an 80-yard bomb, you'd be like, "So I am coaching that." I mean, you did throw, so it works both ways.
That is true. I hate that. I had kids that couldn't even tie their shoes right, and they expect me to teach them how to drop and carry 2 and come off 1. And so I'm sorry. The kid doesn't know left from right. Give me a break here. Coach Kirby, what you got?
I think you absolutely have to. I think especially, I can tell you just from a couple weeks ago, our last regular season game a couple weeks ago, we spent all week talking about how we got to kick it away from that special returner. And guess who we kick it to? And guess what happens? Opening kickoff. He goes all the way back. So you better believe we took extra look at our lane integrity drills next week in practice after that. So I think absolutely you have to. Are we as proactive about it as we should? Maybe not, but it's definitely something that you have to, especially, when there's something noticeably wrong with what you're doing.
Coach Fagan.
Yeah, I think I touched on this earlier. It comes out in that, mental clip or the correction clip you're going to show the kids on Monday. If you're seeing the same mistake, by the way, what you see on film is what you coached. But yeah, I agree with you. I don't think that's a universal saying. But the point is, if you're seeing the same mistake over and over and over again, well, it's one of two things. Either you need to change up how you're trying to fix it, or you need to actually fix it. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe you haven't been addressed it in practice. Maybe, whatever it is that's consistent. I think consistency is the key. The one-offs, all right, well, maybe I'm doing a good job coaching it, whatever. And then I also think what Coach Lowe touched on, the best thing that I would do is gather all the 0 to negative plays and look at them. And all of a sudden, formation to the boundary, zone to the field, 0, -3, -4, -5, 0, 0. Well, maybe I'm doing something wrong, calling fib with zone to the field. Maybe I don't have enough people over there to block, the field pressure or whatever it is. Maybe I'm doing something wrong if it's consistent. So I think, again, consistency is the key. Look for that and see why.
Also, in that vein of thinking, is can they do what you're asking them to do? I can coach, kind of what Lowe said, I've coached, I got a kid going to Oregon who's 6'6" next year, 6'6", 290, was their number 1 4-eye on the board for 2021. Man, I was a great coach when I taught him how to peek and shed and play in 4-eye. And then you have Willie off the pickle boat, who's 5'6". He's got the T-Rex arm, and he's got the pancake butt, and he can't do that. And it's like, well, which is it? Am I terrible or am I great? Yeah. But sometimes you got, and I'm on this kick. I've been obviously doing a lot of research for the Wade Phillips pod, and he talks about that all the time. And I think that it's a thing that we need to think about in high school. It's a thing that gets often talked about professionals. I think it's something that we need to think about in high school, is not coaching your kids the same every time. Defensively, but we had a stunt where you're usually supposed to play your gap, and if it opens up, you rip inside. Well, I had a kid who couldn't do that. So we lined him up wider, and he would take a step upfield because he'd come upfield a lot, flatten out the block, and then rip inside. So if it's a universal thing, then it may be coaching. If it's one kid that's not getting it, why are they not getting it? Do they not understand it? Are they missing the boat, or are you asking them to do something they can't do? Then the next question you have to ask yourself is, can I alter what I'm telling this kid to get it done? If yes, then do that. If no, then you might want to think about doing something else. So I'll answer this one real quick. With COVID, having no fans, limited attendance, a lot of people are using YouTube. How do you download a YouTube stream game in the Hudl, and how can you break it down for Intercut? Find me on Twitter at Coach Vass. I'll answer that one. I don't know if the company would like me talk about a rip YouTube videos on an official stream. So you hit me up on YouTube or ask out on Twitter land. I don't want to be doing anything illegal here. Coach Knapp.
That's a good answer. Yes.
See, I'm getting corporate here.
Good answer.
My life's God's working on all of us. Coach Kirby and the rest of the group, but this was specifically addressed to Coach Kirby. How many tempos do you use?
We use probably I would group them into 3. Normal speed. We don't have a bunch of fancy names for them, to be frank with you. We have a bunch of one word calls. I would say probably 7 or 8 one-word calls that we use. It's just kind of right away. You hear that word, you line up and go. We have a normal kind of up tempo where it's kind of it's not quite a sugar huddle because we're not having guys kind of get together, but you get up to the line up in a formation, and we call the play as soon as possible, and then we have just a normal kind of slow it down conventional speed. And honestly, like I said, we don't have like a name for each one of them other than the one word calls, obviously, but it's just more like, all right, hey guys, slow it down, relax. We're going to line up in right ace here, and then, we'll go from there.
Coach Fagan.
Vass, would it shock you if I have a PowerPoint presentation or a Google slide presentation?
No, it definitely wouldn't.
All right, hold on here.
Do you have a TPS report?
Yeah. So there is. This actually might not be the one, but this is what shifts and controlling tempo with shifts and unbalance. So I pulled out the wrong presentation. But essentially, we have 5. All right. So one word, as fast as you could possibly go. Regular tempo, where we're going to signal in the play and we're going to run it. The third tempo is everybody's got it in America, right? You get up to the line of scrimmage, you have a fake cadence, you get set, then everybody looks over, you get back, and you run the play. The fourth one is we're going to motion 4 times before we snap the ball. So it's obviously trying to get the other team to jump. So we're going to come out, essentially we're going to come out 4x1 into the boundary. Motion, we're going to call the cadence. Boom, try and get them to shift. If not, then we're going to motion twice to 3x1 to the field. Then we're going to run power read to the field with the 4th motion. And again, that's all just trying to get them to jump, but you're snapping the ball with 1 second on the play clock at that point. You know what I mean? So it's as slow as you can go. And then our 5th tempo is essentially when we're trying to run out the clock. So I'll signal in the formation immediately. So the kids get lined up. And then we tell them, you can do whatever you want. A couple of years ago, we had receivers that used to play rock, paper, scissors. They would get together in a group, play rock, paper, scissors, till the official puts his hand up in the air. Then I give them the play, and then we run it.
That's good stuff. Control the tempo that way instead of putting it on them. Just hold off. They can't run the play early if you don't tell them to play. Coach Lowe.
The only thing different that we do is just we sugar huddle as our base tempo. So we just have like the burst where we try to hide dudes or try to go unbalanced and stuff like that.
You son of a gun. Mike Prody, your friend of mine, asked a question. He doesn't know it yet, but Alex Kirby, I just recruited him. He asked about custom columns. I think we need to do either a blog or a video or something where we take a deep dive into custom columns in the off season.
Let's talk, Alex.
Well, yeah, and
I did my whole process. Was it May, Brendan? We did that.
Yeah, the epic
first one we did. So I don't know how we.
I mean, let's be honest, Vass, that webinar might have been longer than Godfather Part 2, and it was well worth it.
Yeah, so I don't know how much I can add, but maybe we'll find some. If you use a lot of custom columns and you think you'd be good talking in front of a camera, holler at me, and maybe we'll do a custom. Have to be something for 1 month we can do. So because I could just on custom columns could do an hour. So we'll answer that. We had a question about dressing kids, fringe players. Lo, you guys don't choose who you dress. Like everybody dresses, right? Yeah, that's so. Sort of things do you guys do to dictate the defense? We've kind of answered that as we've gone along. Hudl offensive columns, not defensive columns. I don't care. We'll do both, Mr. Parodi. Do we use Hudl assists? Yes, it's great. Make sure it's garbage in, garbage out. So if you don't give a lot of detail to the assisters, you're not going to get a lot of detail in return. So make sure you have everything laid out exactly how you want it. My first couple weeks at Clovis, I was frustrated with Hudl assists. I'm like, this is terrible, blah, blah. Well, it's because I'm an idiot and I didn't have everything filled in properly. So that's why it wasn't good, because I was giving it garbage. It's giving garbage back to me. If you do all the detail, I went back and I named everything and drew everything up. And guess what? It was fantastic. So make sure if you're having issues, because I've talked to some guys and they're like, yo, total assist some problems. And I'm like, did you drop? Well, no, I didn't do all the form. Well, okay, then it's not going to be good because these guys don't know what to do. They're like, what is this? So make sure you're doing all that stuff first. Wristband or no wristband? One word answer. Keith Fagan.
No.
Stephen Lowe.
No.
Alex Kirby.
No.
Good. Last questions, or yes or no answer. Keith, do you track and note through the week how many times something gets repped? And do you find value?
No.
No. Stephen Lowe.
Not officially. I script. That's the only thing that's kind of like that.
Alex Kirby.
No.
We got 2 minutes. In 15 seconds, how much and in what way do you use the coaches in the press box? Keith, go. I'm doing
Identifying front coverage, reaction, pressure.
Stephen Lowe.
I am the coach in the press box with an iPad.
So it's like having 5 coaches. Coach Kirby.
We have 2 offense and 2 defensive coaches on headsets up in the press box. We have a front guy and a skill guy basically on both sides of the ball. So we want to see adjustments. We want to see personnel, and having an iPad and Hudl sideline really adds a lot to the process as well.
On defense.
Yeah, wait. I want to revise my answer. I didn't know we were giving numbers. Yeah, we just had 2 guys in the booth.
You're giving numbers. Defense. Have personnel. Be able to have a guy that tells you on the front end what because I can't see anything on the field. What happened? Tell me in the past game, and no commentary. I swear to God, if you say didn't tackle him, I'm taking away your headset next week. I've been Coach Vass. You guys have been great. Coach Hall, over to you.